Sons of the Forest. We've seen them all before. The terrifying cannibals and the creatures of the island. The anxiety-inducing combat and the constant pressure of survival. But what would happen if it were peaceful? I want to try something a little different. I want to slow down the gameplay and appreciate the environment and show the true beauty of the forest and all the details it has to offer. I'll be taking the role of a hunter who isn't just necessarily trying to survive, but enjoys the isolation. The ultimate goal for the first 2 episodes is getting my hands on the compound bow. But we'll need to pick up a few key items first, with a few optional items along the way. We'll be 3D printing the optional flask. We'll need to get our hands on the key item, rope gun. We'll 3D print some optional arrows. We'll grab the hanging man's flashlight. Grab the optional modern axe. Another key item is the shovel. And last but not least key item, the rebreather. And without further ado, let's start the adventure. I'm not sure what time it was when the chopper crashed, but gathering most of the items in one day was going to be highly unlikely. Although Calvin wasn't far behind, knowing that there aren't any cannibals to fight or run from, the feeling of isolation was slightly intensified. And having the game mode on peaceful ironically had the opposite effect. Things felt somehow even more eerie out in the open, like I was being watched, even though I knew no one was there. Making my way to the first key item, the caves, even on peaceful, still feel pretty unsettling. A little floaty. Ugh, gross. I took a detour. Even though the taser isn't a listed item, I figured, what the fuck was that? Not knowing what that was, even though I had enemies turned off, I felt like I needed to get my ass out of there as fast as possible before I lost any more sunlight. Here we go. Key item number 1, the rebreather. Jesus, I forgot I had a friend down here. Not knowing what to do next, I puckered my ass up and swam like hell. Not to mention that swimming or diving in any video game always gives me fucking anxiety. So for me, this was the worst. Even if Kelvin was a little bit creepy, I was still pretty glad to see him. Stopping for a light snack and planning my next move. I was beginning to rapidly lose sunlight. I knew grabbing just one or two more items before nightfall was going to be a challenge. Sure enough, just after a few minutes of hiking, I was hit with a pretty hard rainfall. With just a few minutes left of sunlight, I did my best to get as close to the next item as possible. But with the storm increasing its intensity, I had no choice but to settle up for the night. But the only option I had was a dinky little emergency blanket. Hopefully, I would survive until morning. After a cold and brutal night, the rainfall had persisted throughout the early morning, but the conditions were far beyond well enough to pack up and start moving out. Scouting out the trails ahead, I knew I had found what would eventually be my home base for the coming episodes. After taking in the sights, with the warm sun on my back and time on my side, it was time to grab the next item, which I'm pretty sure is right around the corner. Unlike yesterday, I knew for sure that today I had a full day of sun ahead of me, and I was fairly confident that I had the rest of the items rounded up just before nightfall. Here we are, at what I refer to as Hanging Man's flashlight. All I need to do now is get up there and cut him loose. This marks the third item we've obtained so far. Now that we have the flashlight, navigating the caves would be that much easier. And soon, we'll be glad to have it. using the stream to navigate to the next cave. It was a reminder that I need a way to bring water with me, and the flask would be well worth the sunlight it would take to get it. Navigating the cave to the 3D printer was easy enough, and I welcomed the ease of this task, as the other caves would take more time and energy. I took a moment to loot the room and appreciate the odd item left behind. Tim LeBlanc's parallel universes and travel between them. But now it was time for the real prize, the flask. Look at this guy. Looks like me trying to render this video. Item number 4 is in the bag, and it was time to fill up the flask and move on to the next item. Unlike the previous caves we've encountered before, this one was more disturbing, and it felt like it was foreshadowing what was lurking in its depths. Holy Spirit, activate! Jesus! I knew something was in these caves. No, I've never had a chance to see this up close. The thing is disgusting. It'd be a shame if this thing accidentally blew up somehow. Ugh. Oops. Ugh. With the rope gun being our key and 5th item, we only need 2 more items to complete the list, and we have plenty of time to spare. With the evening drawing near, I tried to haul ass to the final cave where the shovel was being held. Even though the slingshot wasn't on my list, I figured it might be useful, and I mentally prepared myself for more diving. I hate diving. This guy's not going to be in the 3rd iteration. At last, we got our hands on the final key item, the shovel. Now that we have all key items secured, it was time to use whatever daylight we had left to haul our asses back to camp and grab the final optional item, which was the modern axe. Now that we've gathered all the items we needed to access the compound bow, it was time to head back to the campsite and pick a spot to build a hunter's lean-to. And I think I know exactly where I want to put this lean-to. With the sun pretty much behind the mountains, it was time to chop some firewood, build a fire, and relax for the rest of the night. Well, it turned out to be a pretty good day. I did everything I set out to do and set up base camp before sundown. All that was left to do was enjoy the rest of the evening. So I hope you join me on the next episode, where I finally grab the bow and a few other useful items and make some improvements to the camp. But for now, let's enjoy a nice montage and appreciate the beauty of the forest. Catch you guys later.